everybody and everyone, and welcome to a special edition of Heroes Peak Podcast. I am yours truly, James, and I got with me my sparring partner, Mike. What's going on, Mike?
Oh, not much. Just doing the wax on, wax off thing.
Wax on, wax off. I really wish I had a Miyagi right now because I've had a terrible week being under the weather, and I needed like one of those, my sinuses and my lymph nodes and all that stuff to get me right. But I had to I had to do it. I had to come out, Jordan's flu game, give our audience a fantastic quick peek episode of Cobra Kai, season 6, part 3, the finale of this show. So for anyone that just crawled out of a freaking snake pit that wasn't sure about this Cobra Kai show, it was a rehash, or I should say a rehash. It was more like a sequel to the original movie franchise in the 80s and late early 90s with the Hilary Swank version.
Yeah.
Originally featured on YouTube. And if I'm correct, we actually did do a quick peek on one of the seasons way back when. I'm not sure which season it was.
It might have been 3 or 4.
Correct. At that point, it was already on Netflix from YouTube.
Yeah.
So again, for those who don't know, Cobra Kai is a martial arts comedy drama that featured the original cast of Ralph Macchio and William Zabka, as well as some younger generation of actors and athletes, including Zola Madrina, I'm killing his name, plays Miguel Diaz, a few other folks. Peyton List, who plays Tori, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah.
And it's been going on pretty strong. I mean, from the time that it was on YouTube to the point where Netflix picked up in season 3. It's actually got nominated in the Primetime Emmy Awards for Outstanding Comedy Series. Go figure. So it was bittersweet that season 6, the final season of Cobra Kai, came out with 15 episodes on Netflix, of which, for whatever reason, they decided to break up these 15 episodes into 3 tranches of 5 episodes each.
Right.
The first 5 came out last year, midsummer last year. The second part was about a week or so around Thanksgiving, before Thanksgiving, if I'm correct.
Yeah, sometime in November, right?
Yeah. And then the final 5 just came out this month in February. So just a quick catch up, season 3, those who know, was broken up between being in the All Valley home side. Then they shipped it to Barcelona for the second tranches of the episodes. Cobra Kai tournament, which was like a mix between Street Fighter and Bloodsport with kids, right?
Right.
And then this season right now, it actually shifted to the aftermath of what happened in the Saikai tournament up in Barcelona, where one of the karate participants, Quan, had an untimely death, as well as the fact that the major dojos, the Iron Dragons, Miyagi Do, and Tori, as part of the Cobra Kai team, was all left postponed indefinitely. We're not sure what was going to happen to them. So before we proceed, Mike, I want to get your feelings or your feedback on what were you expecting for this last 5-part episode of part 3 to encompass, knowing what happened in the first 10 episodes. Just your thoughts.
Well, I figured they were gonna continue the tournament somehow. I didn't realize it was gonna come back to California and all that good stuff. And we had a bit of corniness with the Tekai board members and all that stuff. That one scene, we'll probably get into it.
We'll get into that,
yeah. But I expected it to, come back and finish the tournament. I figured the kids would fight each other, but it didn't go down exactly the way I thought it was. So it was a little surprising there. And then obviously we had some twists with the adults and stuff like that, and some great moments, with some of the first gen Karate Kids, right?
Right. I think for me, I'm aligned with most of what you just said. The exception, I thought that we would get a little bit more mileage out of the international sets, right?
Yeah.
They went to Barcelona, the entire episodes 10 through 14. but I thought we would get a little more information with South Korea. I believe that's where the setting was for the grandfather of the original Cobra Kai.
Yeah.
I thought we'd get a little bit more of that, as
Mm-hmm.
well as maybe some connections to Miyagi and Okinawa, Japan, before coming back stateside to conclude the series.
Yeah.
Like you, I wasn't sure exactly how we would end the series, knowing that we had so many subplots and major plots and narratives with both the adults, the two main senseis, as well as the younger generation of kids, of which some of them weren't really featured in that middle arc,
Right.
like you see Kenny and etc. A lot of those lesser known characters were kind of left to the wayside in part two.
Mm-hmm.
Hoping to see them in part three, but also again they had the three. Shout out to, by the way, which I'm following on Twitter X, Josh Heel, John Hurwitz, and Hayden Schlossberg, who
Mm-hmm.
were the original co-creators from day one, even back in the YouTube days, and the show writers who actually wrote the finale episode, the final
Yeah.
episode they actually wrote pen to paper. I wasn't sure how they're gonna be able to close out all these little subplots until we saw the first trailer. When we saw the first trailer, we were like, okay, gonna be focusing on karate. It's gonna be focusing on what does Cobra Kai legacy mean to this new generation. So, all right, so we went in there with our feedbacks on what we thought this part three was gonna end. The first thing I want to focus on is, because it's pretty prevalent in the first episode, is the character of John Kreese and his legacy.
Mm-hmm.
So we see John Kreese now in South Korea with, I forgot the young woman's name who Chosen kind of falls in love with. She's the granddaughter of the original instructor. I'm not sure if he's even the original instructor of Cobra Kai, but he's like the last of the legacy. And John Kreese is telling her that although Cobra Kai has failed on the international stage, it's not the true legacy he feels like he felt. So
Mm-hmm.
this was a new vantage of John Kreese's character.
Yeah.
Although we kind of we saw him Breaking Good, the opposite of Breaking Bad. We saw him
Mm-hmm.
good in some of the earlier seasons of Cobra Kai. It looked like he was really breaking good in this first episode, and starting a weird arc. And I didn't know what to take. I thought this was like he must have realized he's dying. He's got cancer, so now he's trying to make amends, right? So
Mm-hmm.
let's start with the John Kreese character going in the beginning of this last five parter, and how that first episode hit you or didn't hit you. I don't know, Mike. You tell me. What were you thinking?
Yeah, I mean, it was nice to see. I didn't really expect it, his redemption from him, but it was good, nice to see. I love the way him and Johnny kind of made up at towards the end there.
I have that a special
Yeah,
spot
that
in
great
mind.
scene. That was probably one of the best scenes of the show, I think, because
Yeah.
it tied the whole 1984 like all the way to 2025. Just tied it together nicely. So, and gave you. I mean, if people didn't understand um, why Johnny's character was the way he was, you kind of get this understanding, like he felt abandoned, right? But
But going, let's just focus on Crease's
yeah,
character.
but with Kreese, it was more of I think he realized, towards the end there, it was like, what have I done with my life? Why, why did I, go down this path? And maybe, hopefully, it's not too late to fix it. So,
You mentioned a good thing here at the end. The Crease character. What did I do with my life?
mm-hmm,
So I forget which season it was, but the backstory to Kreese's version of Cobra Kai, because at this point we know Cobra Kai was much larger than Kreese and
mm-hmm,
Johnny in 1984, the first movie, or even the third movie of Terry Silver and his brand of Cobra Kai.
right,
We realize Cobra Kai stems from like the early 1900s. It was an offshoot of Miyagi Do at some point, and it's actually, as we know, strike first, strike hard. It's more an aggressive form of traditional karate that has been passed on through this particular weird way of military folks getting involved, American military folks. So
yeah,
Kreese's character in that flashback there, which season it was, it showed you that yes, he was an aggressive guy going into Vietnam, and then he was hardened by the Vietnam War. But it was that instance of where he had to make a calculated risk to take someone else's life to save others, Terry Silver, that he became the actual Cobra Kai serpent.
right,
And from that point on, whether you want to agree or disagree, like the Anakin redeeming himself or not, he embarked onto Johnny what he thought was the right path of karate, right? So
Hmm.
that was his version of Cobra Kai, and now we're seeing him in this first segment where he's like, he obviously knows it was wrong. He's not asking for forgiveness. He's just telling them I could have done better. So first thing he acknowledged was Kwan's death was his fault. To I apologize, forget the actress's name, the character's name in this, and he gives her a mission to either make a calculated decision to take over Cobra Kai and give it its own legacy, or continue the same path that he's been going down through. Which I
Right.
thought was like interesting that the writers would focus so much on Kreese at the beginning of this. It's only got 5 episodes left. What are they trying to tell us? But I think you hit it on the nail that Kreese's redemption arc is perfect for Johnny's story.
Exactly. Yeah.
And then you get that out the way. It's like you open a cereal box, you get a toy you're not even expecting. Wow, I get Cocoa Puffs and an action figure. Holy.
Right.
Um, so that's my thoughts. Anything else you want to add on to that before
Yeah,
we?
because you don't get a resolution for Johnny without Crease there, right?
Yeah, and honestly, I didn't think that it would be that way because I thought we were done with the Crease character.
Hmm.
How many times this dude has to die and come out of nowhere? Let's move on. Let's focus on Johnny and the kids. All
Yeah.
right. Speaking of moving on, so it was pretty short lived that the Saikai tournament ended with the tragedy of Kwan's death.
Yeah.
All of a sudden, ESPN, the Ocho is still it's back. The All Valley board had to sit down and make a decision what match. This is like all right. So this is part of the show that it's corny.
Right.
Some cases it's cringy corny, but we get it. We get the fact that the guy who says it's karate time is going to want to say it's karate time,
Yeah.
and we get all that stuff. So I just want to focus on this quick little beat on the fact that the first episode, they're trying to tell you that the aftermath of what happened in Barcelona is affecting both the students and the senseis in a certain way where they're not sure they want to go back to the karate tournament, particularly Daniel, because Daniel, he doesn't he's banning bonsai trees now in the dealership.
Yeah.
Weird.
But
Go ahead.
also, but part of that is also because of what he had learned about Miyagi, right? In
Uh-huh.
that part two of the season. So learning that Miyagi had killed somebody. So, and then we get a
Yeah,
resolution of that as well,
I
which
thought
was
that was kind of weak, to be honest with you, that Daniel would
yeah.
still harbor those feelings about a man that he's known all his adult life.
Mm,
But again, I guess it's part of the story and fleshing out
yeah.
his own closure of his character. All right, so anything about the students though before we get to the fact that the term is coming back? Like they're talking about college, they're talking
Yeah,
about
I mean, it had been. I guess it had been some time between when Quan got killed and part three starting. So the kids are basically, since they're being told, "Hey, there's no tournament now. We're not, even if there is, we're not going back. It's time to move on." So they're moving on with their lives. They're talking about MIT and Stanford and all that good
back.
stuff.
Yeah,
And what's her face is talking about going to Okinawa. Thinking
Sam.
about going. Yeah, Sam's going
Yeah,
to Okinawa and
yeah.
all the other stuff. And meanwhile, Tori and
Robbie.
Robbie, yeah, they don't know what they're gonna do, but they got it figured out in the end as well. So I mean,
I,
yeah. It's kind of like you're moving on. Obviously, it seemed always did seem like though the kids did wanna, if the tournament came back, they wanted to take part in it, right? Not so much the
yeah,
adults, except for Johnny, really.
yeah. I think you're right. I think the kids always wanted some sort of closure to the tournament because you have to understand if you're believing in this world that exists in these characters, the last 4 years of their lives has been consumed by this karate culture and
Right.
tournaments, right? And
Yep.
here they are at peak of their powers, and it's over. Now they have to resume. It's like an athlete who spent their teenage years and 20s and 30s, and all of a sudden now it's over. We're gonna do broadcasts, sell cars, like Daniel. But all right, so I think we've beaten that to death.
Yeah.
Let's move on to voila, the tournament is back, baby. It's not only back, but it's back in All Valley, which is you know again, jumping the shark a little bit with the storytelling. Um, so we get to the finale of these fights: Robbie versus Axel,
Mm-hmm.
and supposedly Sam was going to fight. I forgot the actress from Iron Dragons.
Yeah, what's her face? Zara, right?
Sarah, thank you.
Yeah.
Um, so we're like, okay, we're right back into it. Let's get karate time, as our old boy would say.
Mm-hmm.
Now the Robbie and Axel fight, and I'm not going to press it too much. I'm just going to say that I thought the choreography for that fight wasn't among its best we've seen. My own opinions on that. Um, and then when Robbie goes down, obviously full spoiler here, he goes down with that um, maneuver
Sweep the
that
leg
the
moment.
referees didn't say was illegal. Then they take him back to the locker room, and it's almost beat for beat from Karate Kid 1. I'm like, let's not go there, please. And I'm glad it didn't go there. And that fight concludes. What were your thoughts on that? From the beginning of that fight to the conclusion of that fight. Walk me
Yeah,
through what were you thinking.
yeah. I wasn't sure because I didn't know if Robbie was going to win or not and be the end of it. But so that was kind of a bit surprising when he got injured like that. I thought it was funny in the locker room when Daniel was asking
Chosen.
Chosen to do to do the thing, and he was like, "That's not going to work on broken bones."
Broken bones need to heal.
Yeah, so I thought that was a good scene, and um, but yeah, I guess it had to come down to Miguel at the end, right? So.
But before we go there,
Mm-hmm.
let's just hypothetical situation. Do you think that in a fair fight, would Robbie have been able to defeat Axel?
I don't think so. I don't know. It
I'm
didn't
waiting
seem
for you.
like it.
I'm waiting for you to argue with me with this one, but yeah,
Yeah.
I agree with you. I think, and this is by the way, if you go online in a Cobra Kai zeitgeist, been ongoing battles about which of these characters is considered Karate Kid, and there's like a whole group of folks out there, both Robbie or Miguel or even Hawk,
Mm-hmm.
that would defend and fight tooth and nail each of these characters.
Right.
And after everything we've watched, I think that Robbie wasn't necessarily the best of the males throughout the entire show,
No.
but he was probably the most gifted, physically speaking.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe you could say maybe part of that's because he's Johnny's son, biological son, whatnot. But physically, I thought he had the most gifts out of all of the characters on the male side.
Mm-hmm.
However, Miguel, which we'll get into a little bit later, it's a little bit more than just physical gifts, right? It's
Yeah.
more of like being able to adapt, the heart of a champion, the will, all that other stuff, right?
Right.
Um, so I guess we can move on to the Sam fight. So before we do that, this is a controversial moment. The night before, Daniel, who's been conflicted beginning of this tranche, has a vision of the first movie. This time Miyagi shows up in a terrible CG
I
rendition.
didn't think it was that bad. It could have been better, but you got to remember they probably don't have the budget for.
It's the
But
finale. You don't have
yeah,
the budget.
yeah, I don't know.
Oh, I know where they spent the budget on. We'll get to that.
Yeah.
We'll get to that next. I know where they spent the budget on. But I didn't like it. I thought it was cheap. I thought what they could have done was do like a voiceover of Miyagi, which we
Mm-hmm.
do have the tech for,
Yeah.
telling him exactly where he might have failed as a sensei and what he could have done better, as opposed to giving us that physical sequence of the battling of the Cobra Kai skeleton dudes from the first movie. I didn't like that at all, but I did like the overall message of what it told Daniel, which then he concluded with his daughter saying like, "You don't need to fight.
Yeah.
Fight's over. If it's not in you, then it's fine. It's right too."
Yeah.
Did you agree with that or no?
Yeah, I agree with you. But I thought the scene worked. I liked it better than you did, obviously.
Tell me why. Tell me why.
I don't know.
Convince.
It seemed like a good heartfelt moment. I can look past the not so great CGI. Yeah, it's fine. I mean, what are you gonna do? The guy's dead. So
What you can do is not do that sequence at all. What are you gonna do? But
it's all right. I thought it was fine. So
Okay, so that leaves us with basically the dismantling of Miyagi-Do,
Mm-hmm.
whether it's right or wrong. Robbie is technically out of the tournament, and Sam has voluntarily discharged herself
Yeah.
from the tournament, which gives you the end of Miyagi-Do as it stands for the entirety of the series when it comes to karate tournaments. Again, that leaves it wide open for the titular, as Brooks would make fun of me, um, dojo Cobra Kai, which is
Mm-hmm.
the entire series, to return.
Right.
Now, at this moment, Tori's already the last standing member of Cobra Kai because of the events from the first episode, where again we still haven't gotten the actress's name, the granddaughter of the Cobra Kai master, where she decides to take her grandfather's life, take over the mantle of Cobra Kai, and removes them from the tournament
Mm-hmm.
to find a better path for Cobra Kai or
Right.
the Asian Cobra Kai. So that leaves Tori as the only female um, combatant to face off against Zara without a dojo. But before we get there, there's a very powerful scene that happens that I think that we have to talk about, and you brought it up a little bit earlier before it's time. Was prior to Miguel taking the mantle himself for the male Cobra Kai combatant, there's a coming to terms between Johnny Lawrence character and John Kree's character.
Mm-hmm.
So I want you, Mike, to kind of walk me through what were you feeling or thinking about when the moment when Kreese was doing his kumbayas and I rebuke everything I've done in the past, blah blah blah, and then Johnny was like, "Fuck you, bullshit." You walk around.
Mm-hmm.
What were you? I'll let you go first, please.
Yeah, the best part of that scene, like I was with Johnny, I was like, whatever you say, man. But then when Johnny let loose and was like, you know, when I needed you the most, what did you do?
Threw
You
me out
fucking
like
failed
garbage.
me. Yeah,
You threw me out like garbage.
right. And
It
that,
wasn't losing to Daniel. It
mm,
was what you did to me.
yeah, right after, yeah. So that was like that hit hard. So I love that scene altogether. And then Kreese realizing, yeah, I was a complete dick, and I'm so sorry, and them making up, that was great. So
I agree with you. I think what that scene did to the character of Johnny Lawrence and the show itself was kind of put a bow on the fact that the very first episode of Cobra Kai shows us Johnny's perspective on what the events from Karate Kid 1, the finale, the final fight. He felt
hmm
cheated. He was abandoned by his own group, including his master. His life went, all types of disarray. And then you started seeing, okay, wow, maybe he wasn't such a bad guy. And then, the show did a great job of making you care just enough for the Johnny Lawrence character. In some cases, where you really thought he was the better person between him and Daniel.
hmm
Some cases, I think this scene with Kreese kind of brought it home.
yeah,
Like you're wavering a little bit about his character actually being a good man, a good person, a good karate sensei or student. I think this scene it explains why he was the way he was,
hmm
what became of that, and how he's been, always going back and trying to fix it without knowing how. And I think this is the catharsis that a lot of characters get in great movies and great shows,
right.
where you realize, all right, this person is the way he or she is because of things at the foundation and at the beginning foundation of the character.
hmm
Kreese's character, and I mentioned earlier, I thought that his redemption at the beginning, I didn't really care for it, but now it makes so much sense because it tied directly to Johnny's
Yep.
come to Jesus moment, and I think that moment should be considered for, you know, Emmy and Golden Globe nomination, at least that episode, if nothing else in the show.
Hopefully, or for writing or something. Yeah.
Correct, writing, performance, whatnot.
hmm
So I put away the tissues and everything.
hmm
That blows the way for Miguel to return as Cobra Kai, his original dojo, and
hmm
fight and represent Cobra Kai.
Right.
So the stage is set. What were you thinking before these two matches?
So I figured Tori and Miguel would win, right? But we didn't get
Mhm.
that either. So But I was hoping we did get a decent fight at least. So I thought this fight, Miguel's fight, was better than Robbie's. You know,
Correct. I mean,
yeah,
they did win. Tori
yeah.
and Miguel won, but in
Wait,
a
it was a tie,
fashion that
wasn't it? Because of the
no,
points.
they won, but the dojos became a tie. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah, that's what it was. There was a
so
point system. So
it's a point system.
yeah,
It's like
gotcha.
nobody was keeping track. So
Yeah,
nobody's keeping track how many points they're getting from what.
yeah.
Well, I think Tori's fight was, I thought, was a messaging to her character.
Hmm.
No nonsense. Like in the beginning, she says it to Johnny, like she's like a fucking whirlwind. I don't know how to fucking beat her. And then he was like, "Yo, do what you need to do. Use your
Right.
advantages and stuff."
Yeah.
And then she dug into herself. He was like, and then Daniel was like, "Nobody's taking more shit than you," which is true. Like her character is probably taking the most beat downs. She lost her mother for God's
Oh
sake.
yeah. Hmm.
So I thought it was a pretty fantastic fight, including the teeth knockout.
Yeah.
Um, Tooth Fairy. Miguel's fight. All right, I want to spend a little time on this one.
Okay.
So this is probably the best fight that we have for this season, from
Hmm.
beginning to finish, because we'll get to the final battle a little bit. I thought Miguel's fight. I get the montages that we were getting, what got him to each of these fighting techniques and his point,
Yeah.
but I thought it took away from the fight a little bit.
Yeah. I kind of I'm with you there. Like it was a little distracting. Yeah.
Yeah, it was a
Hmm.
little distracting because, like, in the middle of his forms and movements, you're stopping to give me a scene where he's learning how to stand up again. And he's learning how, don't be a pussy underneath
Yeah.
the water. And I'm like, you could have like maybe cut those a little bit different near the end,
Yeah.
perhaps.
Right.
Give us at least the first half of the fight where it's like, all right, so you're watching it and you're choreographing everything, and then like the last 30 or 45 seconds, you give me these montage moments, right before
Yeah.
the. I thought they dropped the ball in that. Um, I also thought that the whole moment about Axel knowing there's a potential kryptonite or weakness in his back,
Hmm.
and then him not using it, and that was supposed to be like Axel's little redemption story, which
I
no one
think
asked
so
for.
too. Yeah.
And I'm like, we didn't need, we didn't need that because you telling me you could have actually won the fight had you landed another cheap shot, and maybe McGill didn't have a counter for it. Like that wasn't needed. We didn't ask for it. I was
I
disappointed.
think though they kind of wanted to show that Axel wasn't a complete dick.
But why? Who asked for it?
I mean, because he's still a kid too, right? In the end, and you don't want somebody. I don't know. You don't want that. You don't want to leave it at that. That you got this kid out here who's just you know total happens to be German and and
Mm.
totally evil. You
Yeah,
know.
but that would have worked because if you recall, after that fight, his sensei is like getting on his case about why he
Yeah.
lost the fight, and he just goes, "I need a better teach," or "I'm disgraced to be your student," whatever, and he
Mhm.
walks away, and I'm like, that was it. Like, like
Yeah.
it didn't for me. It didn't land, but it seems like they've landed for you. I don't know.
Not that it landed, but it just kind of made sense to not leave him being a complete douchebag. Like everyone kind of had, even if it was a mini redemption, they kind of, and I think by doing that, you show more that Louis Tan's character was more of the bad guy than the students were, right? Like just like Kreese was in '84.
But you know what would have been better?
Mm.
You're halfway there. Had he returned in the final moments with the Cobra Kai teaching school, and he was there as one of the senior students because he realized, all
Mm.
right, Louis Tan's form, the Iron Dragons, is really bad. It's negative. But what is this Cobra Kai? This form beat me. Let me go study from yours.
Yeah, yeah, that
That would
probably.
have actually been a better. Again, I'm nitpicking with the writers. I'm not
Yeah.
guys. This is what you could have done and make it a masterpiece, but you didn't do that. All right. So by some weird freaking electoral college U.S. elections math,
That was one of the parts. That was one of the parts I was like, ah, come on, really?
so that tells me had Tory or Miguel lengthened out their back. No, I think Miguel's ended at the buzzer.
Hmm.
Had Tory gotten a few more knockdowns before the knockout,
Yeah.
it wouldn't have been a tie.
Right.
I would have won outright.
Hmm.
Stupid, 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 Stupid.
But we had to give Johnny his due, right?
We did, which I was not expecting. I was
I
not
mean, this
expecting.
definitely wasn't one of the top fights either because Johnny Williams Act was 60. You know,
Hmm.
Louis Tan is what, 30, 35?
Yeah, 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 you
So,
could tell that it was. Yeah,
you know, Louis had to hold back big time
it was
compared to like
terrible.
his role in Mortal Kombat, right? So,
Oh my god, it wasn't one of the worst fighting that I.
no, it was more emotional than like, like how you know what I mean? Like exciting.
Okay, but before we get to the fight itself, there's another
Mm.
big moment that happens here that I gotta talk about. It was the ending of the characters Terry Silver and John Kreese. So Miguel wins, Tori wins. It's a tie. It's now we go the old ways. The dojos, the senseis themselves have to fight,
Hmm.
and Terry, being Terry, was like, and and this shout out to the actor for Terry Silver because I think he nailed the villain role better than anyone. Um, this entire franchise,
He
right?
did, but some of his motivations didn't make sense to me.
It
But
didn't make sense. But remember, before we got in love with Marvel's version of villains where they're bad guys with a good story or a code or whatever, like,
yeah,
we're all in love with Thanos and Killmonger and whatnot. We used to have the Green Goblin Giblins. It doesn't fucking make sense. Or the Joker. It
right,
wasn't supposed to make sense.
yeah,
So Barry Silver, yeah, they threw us. He's got cancer. He's gonna. It's his legacy on the line. And at the end of the day, he didn't give a fuck about that either. He was just like, I just want to win no matter what. He's giving away his boats. He's giving away.
yeah,
So he comes up with the fucking idea. Let me make sure that we win this tournament. Mind you, he's dying. He's got nothing to really live for. But I'm gonna make sure before I die, I'm gonna compromise Johnny in this fight by
right.
doing something malicious against his family.
Hmm.
And I'm like, wow, this dude no holds barred.
Uh huh.
And then before that even comes to fruition, lo and behold, John Kreese, the other antagonist of this series, comes to play. Mike, walk me through what you're thinking when you're watching that segment.
Yeah, I didn't realize how it was gonna go. I didn't think it was gonna go down the way it did, but when I saw them two on the boat, I figured they were gonna be fighting, and then you know, didn't
We were
realize they were
fighting.
gonna blow each other up. But
We were fighting. They were fighting, and you see the stunt double cuts.
yeah,
Um, so yeah, full spoilers here. They
yeah.
fight, and they're at a point where Terry Silver has the upper hand, and he's looking to death blow Kreese, but Kreese being Kreese is always he's got something up his sleeve, and he's the whole time he's trying to get his cigar to toss into the gasoline that is, Chekhov's gun. You're on a
Yeah.
boat. You have this whole array of gasoline. Like that's
It's
not where you're
right out
supposed
on the deck for some
if
reason.
anyone knows anything about yachting or boats. And he says mercy. I'm like, I would have rather him say no mercy
Right.
than do it.
Hmm.
But I was conflicted. I was conflicted. What about you?
Yeah, like I said, it was a weird scene and wasn't the way I was expecting it, but I guess you gotta close them out somehow. So it almost seemed like some of the endings just kind of seem a little rushed. Like how we're
No,
gonna close,
speak your truth.
yeah,
What
how
did
we're
you
gonna
feel?
close this guy out, how we're gonna close this out. Oh, let's just have them blow each other up. Oh yeah, perfect.
And
Like
that's been the rest of our budget in this scene because that's where the budget went.
yeah,
Right.
did pitch meeting guy do this last arc yet or no?
No, not yet.
Okay, I want to see what he says about that.
I think I'm with you.
Blowing
Um,
people up is tight.
it felt rushed and it felt like anticlimactic. It felt like, and they, by the way, they chose to end it. They chose that scene to be the capper for the penultimate episode, not
Hmm.
in the finale,
Right.
which I think did work, but it also didn't work.
Well, I mean, because in the final episode, they spent like 20 minutes, like with everybody. Where are
Montage.
they now at the end,
All
right?
right, let's go right into it. All right, the finale titled "Ex Degenerate" was written by the show creators I mentioned earlier, and it shows you two things. It shows us the Johnny and Daniel training montage and going
Mm,
back to the basics of the
hmm.
dojo that Daniel was somehow to get at market price. I don't know how wealthy is Daniel. Like It's
Well,
anyway.
yeah, he's got the dealership, but I don't know.
Yeah, but he's like some real estate mogul type level.
I guess.
So they reopened Cobra Kai, and they're doing their training, and they're doing the Rocky moments. They're doing all like the. They even give us the John Esposito, "You're the best." So
Right?
finally,
Yeah.
we waited 6 seasons in 3 parts to get the Johnny Esposito, "You're the best."
Uh,
Not during a fight, but during a training montage.
yeah.
What were your thoughts going through this whole 20-minute segment before we get
I
to it?
loved it. I mean, you call it corny, whatever, but I loved it. You even had Daniel's son and the other kid. What's his face? What's his name? Ah, dude.
Which one?
Hang on, give me 1 sec. I'll find it.
What is
You know what I'm
Daniel's?
talking about? They were beefing the whole like few episodes.
Daniel
Um,
and Kenny?
Kenny, right? Kenny.
Yeah, Kenny.
Yeah. And so them sitting together, hanging out, and then the two buddies.
By the way, Serena said justice for Kenny because he was, and that's why, by the way, he was.
Yeah,
So, yeah, he
Kenny
was.
got did dirty like
He did.
back in the day. Yeah, so
Yeah.
I'm glad they kind of fixed him there, fixed his character. And then the two guys deciding, we're not going to we'll go to school together in California.
Binary Bros.
Binary Bros and Hawk, was it Hawk or
Yeah.
Dimitri?
Talking Dimitri.
Yeah,
Binary.
no, but which one got back together with his blonde girlfriend at the end? Because she was like,
Dimitri. Dimitri.
yeah, it was.
You going to TIM? No, MIT. I always knew it was MIT.
So that's why I was saying, like, it kind of felt a little rushed, like,
We
okay,
even get an actor.
because it's a huge cast, really,
Yeah,
when you think about it.
a character that was a student also. Like we didn't even see him at all.
Yeah. So they had to like rush, I guess, all these endings in. And they're like, well, we'll get him back with his girl. They'll go to school together. These two will hang out. Um, Miguel will go to Okinawa with Sam for a year. So
It only makes me think if they had shortened, not shortened, but the second tranche of 5 episodes when there's in the Barcelona.
hmm
There's some storylines they could have went back and cut. If we only knew these 5 episodes were focused towards Johnny, Daniel, Kreese, Terry, Louis Tan's character, and then like the four main Robbie, Sam, Tori, and Miguel.
yeah,
Maybe they could have done better with the secondary characters in that middle
yeah, and that middle one had all those scenes in the nightclub
bars, the
and
nightclubs.
and the kidnapping. Daniel getting kidnapped and all that stuff.
That was
So
wasted.
mm,
Yeah, wasted.
it was they could have cut a bunch of that
I
stuff, but
think my overall show grade is going to drop a little.
yeah, I know.
Stay on topic. Stay on topic. All right,
All right.
final fight. I thought it was interesting the final fight because we did see the training montage where Johnny's finally not succumbing, but he's finally agreeing with Miyagi Do's style of defense and balance. Right. This
Yeah.
is something since the very, very, very first season of Cobra Kai when Daniel and Johnny were still a little bit at odds, but they respect each other as adults. And he was like, pussy way of Miyagi Do, the defense, whatever. It's all about offense. So I thought it was interesting that in the final, the both the montage and the fight sequences. So let's get to fight sequence, right? The final fight. Clearly, Louis Tan is a more skilled fighter. He's
Mm,
younger, maybe not physically stronger, but he's more skilled. He's younger. He's got all the advantages, right? And he even punks him in the locker room right before the fight, which I thought was weird for them to do that. I mean, we get it; he's already superior, but now you're punking him in the locker room.
yeah.
It's a little extra. Like we didn't need that, right?
No, definitely.
And then the fighting styles, clearly you could tell that he's losing. And then Daniel gives him the last little encouraging talk about, are you a pussy? What dojo you in? Again, not needed, but understandable.
Yeah.
Makes sense in this world of that's been built for the Cobra Kai and Karate Kid. I was glad that his final kick was not the crane, or his final.
I thought it was gonna be a crane kick
I
too.
thought so.
Oh man.
We even gave you the cutaway of the
Mm-hmm.
original movie, and I'm like, no, please don't do that.
Because
And
he
they
showed
did.
earlier they had showed Daniel and him at the beach doing the
Yes,
crane kick.
he was practicing it to teach him
Yeah.
balance. But
Mm-hmm.
what they actually did, this is my interpretation, was yeah, he understood balance, but he also understood the fact that he went into Daniel's kick
Right.
first movie because he was so full of rage.
Yep.
Well, Lewis at this point is full of rage because he's starting to lose in points. So he walks into Johnny.
Yep.
So
And I
Johnny,
think that was a
yeah,
way better ending than
I
if
think
he had
that
done the
fight was
crane kick.
more about symbolism and
Right.
messaging, more so an actual physical hand to hand fight
Yeah.
choreography. Um,
Exactly.
do you agree? What
Oh
else you
yeah.
like in
Yeah.
the fight? What else you got?
Yeah. So I think that was way, like I was saying, was way better, showing how far he came as a person, as a fighter. You know what I mean? Not always being aggressive. Even at the end, when he's got his new class and he's talking about the writing on the
I love
wall.
that.
Yeah, and talking
Like
about
strike first, strike hard, but not always.
not right, and the no mercy thing, and
Yeah,
sometimes you gotta have mercy, and so I,
I
I
love it.
I think they really did his character justice here. So
Okay. Anything else before we get to grades?
now I talked about some of the stuff I thought was corny, right? Other than that, yeah, no, I think we're good for grades.
All right, so let's break into again. This is not planned actually. I was going to do grades just for this segment, but now I think I want to do grades for part three, season six, and then the overall. So this is fresh. I only have the first part. I didn't think about the next two.
Okay.
So I was coming into this podcast for part three, season six, at a B plus A minus grade,
Hmm.
and I was waiting for you to kind of persuade me one way or another. I think I persuaded myself with some of the issues I had at a B plus. So I
Okay.
think I'm giving part three a B plus grade. What about you?
So for part three, I think I'm gonna go A minus, actually a little higher,
Okay.
because I like I said I enjoyed the Miyagi scene. I thought that was good. A lot
It did
of
it for you. It
a
didn't
lot
do
of the
that.
flashback stuff, him trying to catch the fly and all that stuff. That got me. So and that's just that scene with Kreese and Johnny, man.
Yeah, that got me too.
Yeah.
That got
So
me hard. I'm not gonna lie. Pause. Um. All right. What about season six, the final season as a whole?
yeah. So that I'll probably just, like that's like a B plus for me. So I'm gonna go B plus.
Wow, we're going the other way. I think I'm giving it an A minus
yeah.
because of
Mm-hmm.
the fighting in the Sekai tournament. I
Mm.
thought it was phenomenal. I thought that was the peak fighting
That
for the
was,
entire
but
show.
I think for me, like you said, that middle 5 episodes kind of took me
Yeah, the
out.
story wasn't great.
Yeah,
The fighting was superb.
yeah. So
Well,
that's
I'm
where I
going
get that B
the
plus
other way.
from. yeah.
Okay. All right, you ready for this one?
Mm.
The entire show,
Whew.
season one to the finale.
This was not honestly. This show was not what I expected at all when they first announced Cobra Kai sequel to Karate Kid, man. And this blew my expectations big time. So I think overall, I'm gonna just give it an A as a show. So entertaining, and especially if you're Gen X and you know Karate Kid, you know what I mean. Like this is the show for you. If you're a fan of the Karate Kid, you're gonna love this show. That's all there is to it.
I'm gonna take it a step further. I agree with your grade. I may also give it an A,
Mm,
for slightly different reasons. I think this show when it first came out, because I remember I've had YouTube for a while. Shout out to YouTube, our platform. Um, the the first and current first season gave me a different view of the show, where it's like, wow, it's quirky, it's funny, it brings me back to the '80s style with
yeah.
modern day theatrics. I love it. But by the time we got to season two and three, it became a more serious show where it's like,
Hmm.
okay, we've got the Daniel and Johnny comedy and the Cobra Kai, everything Generation X one. But now I'm invested in these younger generations, and I'm watching it with my son and daughter, who were at the time both teenagers or preteen. And it's like I care about these younger generation characters and
Right.
what they're going through and their version of um, the Karate Kid franchise,
Exactly.
to the point where we get now where we were so invested where these characters mean and matter to us. So I agree with your grade. I just have a different vantage point and why I think it's an A. Regardless, yeah, man. I
So
didn't. It's my first time voicing it out loud. I think this show in itself is an A show, which is crazy for a show that started on YouTube and ended on Netflix,
I
and
know.
it's not like a Breaking Bad or The Penguin or whatever. Like it's
I think switching to Netflix allowed them more range. They were allowed to drop some f bombs and be more human.
more money.
Yeah,
Let's not kid
and
ourselves.
Chosen is still my favorite character throughout all the seasons. So I'm glad they
Uh,
brought him back.
I think Johnny got. So I told this to a few
Mm-hmm.
my daughter. I thought this was Johnny's season 6. He stood out. Before that, I would agree with you. It was Chosen. It was never Daniel, by the way. If anybody asked me, Chosen from his first season coming to the show. I think it was season 4.
Mm-hmm.
He was my fave, like
Yeah.
you, until this season with Johnny, and then that scene with him and Crease. And I text my daughter. I was like, "This is the scene. He's
Mm-hmm.
now taking over Chosen Lane." And no fault to Chosen's character,
No,
but to me,
I think
that
he's
was
another one they didn't really know what they were gonna do with at the end there. Like there was really
no
nothing for him to do.
nothing. He
Yeah.
came
So
back to his love of his short,
yeah.
not not love his life, but you know what I mean, right? He
Yeah.
got life. Um, it makes me go back and if I ever watch like on TNT, whatever the old Karate Kid 1 movie,
Mm.
I look at him totally different now.
Oh yeah.
Totally different.
But
Totally
even
different.
Chosen though, because when you think about it, Chosen is was more evil. Like think you watch Karate
Yeah,
Kid and you
so
think Johnny was evil, but Chosen had family. His uncle who was like, "No, this is not the
bad.
way."
Someone
You
needs
know,
to do a Chosen story. Like his
yeah.
uncle
And
was
then
a
Chosen, even as a kid, was like, "No, fuck you, uncle. I want to kill this dude."
yeah. This is what you told me my whole life, uncle.
Yeah,
You told me all this forgotten because this Miyagi guy's back here.
right.
It was all about a girl's love. What?
But it's not like Chosen was abandoned. He abandoned them. It's the opposite
Yeah,
that
but for
with
Chosen,
Johnny.
I think it was different because I don't want to get to American culture, but
Yeah.
like his whole life he was taught this certain thing, and
Hmm.
because of Miyagi's return and him squashing it with his brother, his adopted brother, all of a
Right.
sudden he's been like 18 years indoctrinated in this shit. Supposed to just turn that shit off? No, Chosen's like, this is all I know. He's betrayed me. Anyway,
Mm.
all right, so legacy. What's next? So clearly, if you again, if those of you don't know about this show, Super Bowl had a commercial for Karate Kid Legends that featured Ralph Macchio's character along with Jackie Chan's character from the Will Smith version, Jaden Smith. By the way, for those who don't know, Will Smith has been the executive producer
He was a producer on this show
yeah,
from the beginning. Yeah.
since the beginning, since when Sony had it on YouTube.
Yeah.
Um, so they're gonna merge, I guess, these two worlds. From what I've heard so far, oh, two things here, real quick. Another Easter egg. Apparently, John Kreese's character might have lived. There was, if you follow one of the show creators on Twitter,
Uh huh.
he posted not too long ago. There was a magazine that was cut out of the final couple scenes where
Yeah.
there's a scene where before Johnny and Daniel are at the restaurant, they're sitting down and eating, and there's like a newsstand, a magazine stand, and it shows you Johnny on the cover of Karate World, whatever that his dojo won. There was a flip side to it that wasn't aired.
Mm.
Other magazine that showed billionaire missing Terry Terry Silver,
Yeah.
and then the magazine gets picked up and there's a cigar in a hand. So John Kreese reading the magazine.
Oh God.
So for whatever reason, it didn't make the final air. So I
Yeah.
guess, but the fact that the show creators wanted to tell you that he survived was
Mm.
kind of crazy to begin with.
Yeah. I didn't think I'd rather he was dead.
Yeah,
Honestly,
yeah, because
like
then
his
a good
character's
conclusion.
yeah.
Yeah,
It's kind. His arc is done, right? Like just let him rest now. We've forgiven you. We forgive
yeah.
you. We love
Somehow
you now.
Palpatine returns.
Go
Palpatine.
rest in peace.
Um. So yeah, so the movie's coming out. It's supposed to take place 3 months after the events of
Is it
this.
just 3 months? I thought it was a couple of years.
No, 3 months. I heard
Really? Oh, okay. All right.
as of this week, 3 months later.
Well, I'm definitely
Movie.
going to see it now. I want to see what I didn't really like the Jackie Chan one. No fault to Jackie Chan, obviously.
Yeah.
I don't think Jaden's a great actor,
Say
so
it. I don't think he's an actor at all. I think he's terrible. I
he's
don't care.
terrible.
After Earth, you
He's
name
the
it.
reason we don't like kid actors, man. he's
He's one of my
he's
main
one.
like kid actors, especially token family nepotisms.
Yeah,
Um,
but don't get me started on After Earth, man. Jesus Christ.
so any expectations on that
I'm
movie?
looking forward to it. I want to see how they blend the two, right? So we'll see what happens.
All right, I agree with you. So let's wrap this baby up. Announcements. Are we going to be doing Captain Four Brave New World recap soon?
Hopefully next week. Yeah, hopefully next week.
Awesome.
Yeah.
So, Mike, where can our audience continue to get some information on not just Cobra Kai series, but other shows we've been watching and movies on the internet? Do
Well, as
tell us.
usual, for all your car waxing and fence sanding tips, you can find us all over the internet at Heroes Peak, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, Blue Sky. I think that's it. Yeah. And don't forget to like and subscribe, hit the bell to get notifications, and leave a comment below. Let us know what you thought of Cobra Kai Season 6 and the show overall.
Please, for those of you who both follow us and watch the show, we encourage your feedback and your thoughts. We would like to engage with you guys, your negatives, your positives, because this was a fantastic show. And we would love to start the dialogue in our comment section for this podcast on what you guys thought. Do you agree with me? The show had some quirks here and there and it could have been fixed? Or you're like, Cobra Kai all the way, I don't give a fuck. It was the best show ever. I don't know. Talk to us.
Yeah. All right.
All right. Have a good night,
Till next
everybody.
time. Yeah.
Hey, Indigo made the beat.